إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم أما بعد قال عز وجل بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam mentioned very unique hadith, An-Nasai, Ibn Majah, hadith Hasan, that when people stop fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when insan stop fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you something that you will be fear of. When human beings stop fearing God, they live like animals, even worse than animals. Zero fear of the adhab of Allah. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, when that time reached, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send something in this dunya that they will have fear for. And we are living in one of those times. Every human being on the face of the earth have some degree of fear of the virus and the fear of catching it and spreading it, and the fear ultimately leads to death. Whether you have Iman or whether you don't have Iman, whether you're a Muslim or whether you're not a Muslim, every single human being have some fear, some degree of fear. What will happen to them? And that is because, my dear brothers and sisters, the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been diminished. It's gone. The lack of fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you have fear of something besides Allah, you run away from that thing. If you see an animal, lion, tiger in front of you, instantly you have fear in your heart. You do not run towards the animal, rather you run away from the animal. You flee from the animal. That is the kind of fear that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is speaking about. We fear the disease and the plague and the pandemic that everyone is hiding. We have to cover our face. We are running away from people when they are sneezing. Somebody is coughing, we keep distance. Because of the fear of that thing. Allah has reduced our condition like this. But when you have the fear of Allah, you do not flee from Allah. Rather you run towards Allah, even though you fear Allah. Unique. This is a different kind of fear. When you inculcate in your hearts the fear of the adhab of Allah, then because of that fear, you start doing the things that pleases Allah. And then it makes you move towards Allah, near to Allah. we need to recognize where we stand. What is our condition of our taqwa and our fear of Allah in this moment of time? What and who do we fear the most? What and who do we fear the most? Very important. This insan will most likely incline when they see this fear, they will run away from Allah. You check your condition and I check my condition. During the past months, did our life, did our taqwa, did our fear for Allah increase? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says in Hadith Qudsi, a man who don't have the fear of Allah in this world, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will inflict such a fear on him on Yawmul Qiyamah. Such a fear will be inflicted to him that he will not recognize anything. He will not even recognize who is Allah on the day of Yawmul Qiyamah. Such a fear will put in his heart. That is a man who is empty in this world. His heart is empty of the fear of Allah. Nothing bothers him. Jahannam doesn't bother him. Azab al-Qabr doesn't bother him, doesn't budge. Our eyes doesn't even settle with water. The Sirat, we don't even, doesn't bother us anymore. When we read ayahs in Quran about the azab of Allah, it's like we are reading regular stuff. It has no effect on us anymore. It's become normal, routine. Then this heart is dead. When we read about the azab of Allah, we should have fear in our heart. And the same Hadith Qudsi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, a man who have the fear of Allah in this world, in this dunya, on Yawmul Qiyamah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove all fear from him. Subhanallah. A man who have the fear of Allah in this dunya, on Yawmul Qiyamah, Allah will not make you fear twice. Yawmul Qiyamah, you will be free from that fear. That once you had in this dunya, Allah will not give you twice. That is one of the greatest benefits of having the fear of Allah in this dunya. We live in a time where we are bombarded with this fear and the news and the media, and 6 feet apart and mask and wash our hands. If there is one good thing that comes out from this, is that every human being has learned one lesson. Tuhur, cleanliness. Tuhur shatratul iman, half of faith. The entire world, believers and unbelievers, everybody is washing their hands. It's very important, my dear brothers and sisters. Distancing. But sometimes we question, even though the most respected scientists that tells us, some people might feel very uncomfortable being 6 feet apart. Less than that, they are very uncomfortable. They have to be 6 feet apart. But let me tell you something. A few weeks ago, I traveled to New York, upstate. You know, they have the middle seat empty. How much distance is the middle seat from the other person? 2 feet. Approximately 2 feet. So I asked the hostess, is this the CDC regulation? She said yes. I said, what hypocrisy? That on land we have 6 feet, and on air we have 2 feet. And that's a 3 hours flight. In the masjid, we come less than half an hour for Jumu'ah. Daily salat, 5-10 minutes, 6 feet apart. But that is economics. That is economics. Money and business have different regulations. I am not saying that we should not believe. But what I'm saying, sometimes these scientists who we regard as scientists, behind them there's a lot of agenda. Billions of dollars will be made from the pharmaceutical companies who will produce the vaccine. So sometimes you wonder whether it is money driven with all these regulations and laws. They have to produce 400 million vaccines in this country, leaving out the rest of the world. We are not in denial that this exists. What I'm saying, and I remind myself, my dear brothers and sisters, do not be driven by the fear. By the fear of anything besides Allah. That is my point. For we have Iman. When you have Iman, you don't think like the people who don't have Iman. Otherwise, you become like them. People of Iman believe we take precaution, we wear our mask, we wash our hands, we have the distance, whatever they say, and then we have something that they don't have. Tawakkul ala Allah. Trust in Allah. What else can you do besides those two things? Physical protection and spiritual tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tell me, what else can you do? And if you die, then good news. If anyone dies, good news. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, a man who died because of the pandemic, because of a plague, he died as a shaheed. Ala tuli la jannah. He will enter Jannah bi ghayri hisab, inshaAllah. I'm not saying we should wish to die. What I'm saying, if it happened that we die because of it, then good news for those people who have Iman. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promise you Jannah, inshaAllah. So there is no need to live in fear of anything besides Allah. This is my point. Ibrahim alayhi salam was a man of great Iman, great taqwa in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see, when you have knowledge, you develop fear. When you know what will happen in the qabr, you develop fear. When you know what will happen on the mizan, you will have fear. When you know what will happen in Jahannam, you develop fear. When you know about Sirat, you develop fear. Fear of Allah. Fear that you must obey Allah. Fear not to disobey Allah. Fear not to indulge in haram. Indulge in haram. Wallahi, even though we are going through this plague and this pandemic, many of us are still indulging in haram. How many of us are conscious enough to pray 5 salat a day during this time, who never used to? At least that much of fear in Allah, that you know what? Because of the situation in the world, I will take the advantage and start praying salat 5 daily in my life, inshaAllah. Maybe my little contribution of being obedient to Allah and making istighfar that Allah will change my life and the life of my family, inshaAllah. That much. Some of us, we are still not indulging in those things. It becomes a routine now to hear about pandemic. This khutbah probably is outdated, it's too old. Lastly, my dear brothers and sisters, lastly, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, a man who develops the fear of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deliver you from fear, from grief, and for whatever problems you have in life. Allah will give you an exit out of all your problems in life because of taqwallah, because of the fear of Allah. Yes. A man who develops taqwa, fear for Allah. And as I said, this fear draws us nearer to Allah. What was my condition before the plague, and what is my condition now? The condition of my heart. I know many of us, we change physically. Distance, we are wearing masks non-stop. Some people are wearing masks in their homes. But I'm saying not the physical change. I'm talking about the spiritual change of our heart. You know yourself, between you and Allah, you know yourself more. Did my life change? Did I become more spiritual, more near to Allah? Did I fear Allah more? Do I fear Allah more? Until this does not happen to us, our condition will not be changed. Our condition will not be changed. We will still live in fear because of other things besides Allah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq, inshallah. On this blessed day of Eid-al-Adha, on this blessed day of Jumu'ah combined, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our qurbani, our udhiyah, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all forgiveness and accept our du'as, inshallah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect ourselves and our families, inshallah. And give us safe, good in this dunya and akhirat, inshallah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم ولا ذكر الله أكبر. أقم الصلاة.